Welcome back to Plenary 2, a fireside chat on Bridgital Nation Technology for Everyone. In this session, we will discuss how India can harness technology to augment its material and human resources to offer a better quality of life to all Indians. We are honored to have a very special person with us this evening who has made a major contribution to India's dominance in the global IT business and who has provided a definitive blueprint for an inclusive digital India in his book, Bridgital Nation. Mr. N. Chandrasekaran, Chairman Tata Sons, an honor to have you with us today and a very warm welcome to you. I'm also pleased to welcome on the virtual dais Mr. Pati Singhania, President AIMA, and Mr. Vikram Chandra, founder Editorji Technologies. May I now request Mr. Singhania to introduce the session.
Thanks, Rekha. Sri N. Chandrasekaran, Chairman Tata Sons, Sri Vikram Chandra, founder Editorji Technologies, gathered delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a session with a very special business leader. He is the chairman of India's foremost business group, the Tata Group, and one of India's most influential leaders. As the first professional to head the group, he oversees very large and diverse businesses spanning across the globe. He is also a well-recognized face of the Indian IT industry, but he looks at technology from the lens of public welfare. In his book, Bridgital Nation, Solving Technology's People Problem, he has offered strategies to overcome India's shortcomings and alleviate shortages with the help of technology. Mr. Chandrasekaran, or Chandra, as you are popularly known, it's indeed a pleasure to have you with us, and many thanks for agreeing to do this session. Through your book, you have tried to provide a nuanced perspective of technology as a force of positive transformation. We look forward to hearing your views on how technology can be used to enhance the potential of the ordinary people and improve their lives, and how it can be a bridge between the haves and have-nots. A very warm welcome to you again. Vikram, a veteran of TV journalism with 22 years plus at NDTV, and now in your new avatar as founder of Editorji Technologies. You have been reporting and analyzing events and issues from politics to defense, from economy to technology. Given your passion about technology, it's great to have you moderate this session with Chandra. Welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, these days there is a great polarization on the role and use of digital technologies. Some see technology as a panacea for all shortcomings, whereas others see it as a means to concentrated power and wealth. Some see it as a threat to their jobs and way of life. Others see it as a ticket to economic freedom and a better quality of life. Mr. Chandrasekaran's book tries to show that instead of accepting technology as an inevitable replacement for human labor, we can use it as an aid. History tells us that every time a new technology emerges, which can change the way people live, work, organize, and mobilize, the transition is intermittent before it becomes normal. There is much talk about the coming doom of jobs and businesses, despite the historical evidence that every new technology ends up multiplying the economy by turning more people into producers and consumers. We are privileged to have Mr. Chandrasekaran with us, and we would like to learn from this conversation as to why India's future is linked to its use of technology. Maybe Mr. Chandrasekaran will draw some examples from his own group and share his experiences. It is now my pleasure to request Vikram to conduct this session. All over to you, Vikram.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Singhania. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be with us, to be here. And it's a particular privilege to be speaking to Mr. Chandrasekaran, or Chandra, as I am going to call him for the rest of this session, because he is both one of the finest thinkers and one of the finest minds in corporate India whom I have encountered. And it's increasingly it's increasingly infrequent that he comes and speaks to us. So it's a real pleasure and a privilege to be talking to you today. I am going to talk at some length and ask you about technology and digital nation and how do we use technology to fix the world. But if I could first start by asking you about the state of the world and ask in particular the situation that we seem to be finding ourselves in right now here in this country, because it's looking quite dark out there right now. So I just wanted to get your sense. You must be having a lot of people you're talking to. What's the sense that you're picking up? Where are we?
Thank you, Vikram, and thank you, AIMA, for this opportunity. It's my pleasure to be with all of you and share a few thoughts today. Let me address your question with some balanced view. Needless to say, the last 12 to 15 months has been very, very unprecedented. Certainly the most unprecedented times in our lifetime. On the one hand, we have seen a lot of hardship, a lot of struggle, a lot of uncertainty, both economically, health-wise, in our social lives, and it has been very, very difficult. On the other hand, we have also advanced significantly in terms of the future in which the world needs to move. Certain things which needed to be addressed have become very definitive, and so they will get addressed. Let me give a couple of points before coming to India. From the economy point of view, the decisions across the world to provide the right level of fiscal and monetary support has ensured that the economy is recovering in different parts of the world. Obviously, this economic recovery is not going to be uniform. In some nations, especially some advanced nations, also in China, the recovery is going to be faster. And in the emerging markets, the recovery is going to be slower compared to some of these nations. But overall, the world GDP will definitely grow 5, 6, 7%, depending upon who you talk to, albeit after a shrinkage in the last 4 months. From the advancement point of view, I want to make 2 or 3 points. The world needed to go digital. The pandemic has ensured everyone not only believes in digital, has adopted digital. Whether you are from a poor country or from a rich country, whether you are an old person or a young person, whether you are rich or poor, doesn't matter. Gender, diversity, race, doesn't matter. It has been uniformly accepted. I think the world has gained a 10-year advantage in accelerating digital. The second significant shift, as far as I'm concerned, is finally the line has been drawn on sustainability. I don't think that people are going to argue too much. And now everyone will move towards a low carbon economy. The sustainability, which was much needed to be addressed with utmost urgency, will get addressed. Everybody will put their weight behind it. Still, everybody may not agree to the same date, same level of commitments, but the point is that the world is coming together, and that is a good thing. The third thing is, to my mind, the most important thing, people have realized the importance of public health. The world cannot be a healthy place and safe place if some people are healthy and can get all the medical attention and others don't get. I think the healthcare and public health will receive a lot of attention, will receive a lot of funding, a lot of new innovations will happen, and it will get addressed much faster and at scale globally. I think these are all positive impact of the pandemic. Now, coming home, obviously, if you had this conversation about 6 weeks ago, we would only be talking positive stuff because the economic recovery has been spectacular, I would say. If you had asked me after the lockdown last year, at the end of 3 months, practically there was no sales. plants were shut down and hardly any production. And June, July, August, when the demand started picking up, one felt that it's all pent-up demand. But then the recovery over August to March has been really so good that it has surprised everyone. All the industrial sectors have done very well. Core sectors, whether it is a cement or auto, have done very well. The recovery in the last quarter of the last fiscal was also very strong. Yes, the services sector still suffered because there has been some kind of a restriction or a lockdown or a limited operation for different service sectors in different parts of the country. So far it has been good. But then the second wave, currently what we are witnessing, is quite concerning and scary. I think the most important thing now is to manage the current situation very delicately. On the one hand, we've got to protect people. We've got to ensure that people don't end up in hospitals in large numbers. And at the same time, we protect the economy, because there are segments of the society who will suffer so strongly with a severe economic disruption. That is a fact of reality. So we don't have a either or option. Unfortunately, often we like the binaries, but this is not a binary option. This needs to be carefully managed, and we need to vaccinate at a level of urgency that we have never taken any initiative with that pace. So I think a lot needs to be done, but otherwise I think I don't know what will be the situation in 2-3 months, but it will be a wrong day today to say too much about the economy, because there is a lot of suffering. And we need oxygen, we need hospital beds, we need the vaccines, we need the remdesivir, we need so many things, medicines. So in a manner of speaking, today everybody's attention is to address these things. So I don't want to dwell too much into the economy, but I believe that the economic recovery has been quite solid, and we need to manage this next, I don't know how long, maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, very diligently as a country.
Do you feel, Chandra, that it's almost like a second black swan hitting us? Because pandemic was around. It's not that people thought that the pandemic was over, it had gone away. But if you had asked anybody in the month of February or the middle of February that 6 weeks or 8 weeks from then, you're going to be in a situation where you're seeing 270,000 cases a day, and city after city, Delhi had to lock down because there's really no alternative. If you don't lock down, there are no hospital beds. There are people who are going to be dying literally on the streets if you're not careful. So the savageness of the second wave, or the second tsunami, as I think we can call it, is that almost been like a black swan, which has taken everyone by surprise. And could that therefore have a lot of impact? People aren't ready for this.
Yeah, I think no one has been able to predict the behavior of the pandemic in the last 12 months.
Yeah.
So if you really look at who have been better at handling the pandemic on a given day, it has shifted. One day it was Sweden. One day it was India. One day it was UK, who just couldn't get their arms around the problem. And now UK seems to have done it. So I think it's very unfair to be criticizing every day somebody. Because the nature of the beast is such, it has had a lot of unpredictability. No one predicted so many variants. We are learning new terms. Variants, mutation, double mutation. I mean, every single day there are new things that we are learning, and yes, we are. I think the way it has ramped up in the last 10 days or 2 weeks has taken everybody by surprise.
Right.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right. When you talk about one of the basic themes of Bridgital Nation and others is that how can we use technology to really transform economies, transform people, and to solve some of the major problems. Now, let's apply that to the biggest crisis that the world is facing, and it's one of the biggest crises I think the world has ever faced, Turkey, in a really long time. To some extent, you can argue that technology did its part by getting a vaccine so soon, right? It was normally vaccines take 3 years, 4 years, and the vaccine came really fast, and other things have happened as well. How would you use technology now to try and say, okay, this is what we can do? How do we use technology to try and get ourselves out of the hole that we seem to be?
I think there are two aspects, Vikram. One is, what do we do in the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 1 month? It's very difficult to come up with a magic wand to say that you do this in 4 weeks, you'll be fine. But I think what we should be doing is to definitely go in this direction and accelerate it. Let me just give a few points here. Bridgital Nation is about solving India's biggest problems using technology. To my mind, the biggest problems we have fallen into 2 categories: access and jobs. When I say access or the lack of it. Vast majority of the people in this country still don't have access to basic things. It is very common that you can find examples when people have to travel overnight just to get a basic medical help, primary health care. It's easy to find kids not having access to school, having to spend 4 hours, 5 hours to get basic education. Sometimes cannot have access to that basic education. I'm not even talking about tertiary education, even the primary, secondary education. And we have acute shortage of resources. On the other hand, we have huge jobs crisis. We need to create 100 million jobs in the next 10 years, all of you know. And so we have a lot of people. And we have all along been trying to solve each one of these problems individually. To my mind, technology is the solution. And by effectively deploying AI and machine learning and all the other related digital technologies, on the one hand, you will solve access. In the process, you will create a lot of jobs. And when I say you will solve access, you will be able to extend healthcare because you can't build hospitals everywhere. It's a very time-consuming affair. You cannot create another 500,000 doctors in the next 1 year. That's a time-consuming affair. The way to do this is to create people who can do higher level jobs. Most of our jobs are informal. We already have a shortage of jobs. And even the people who are employed are in the informal sector. More than 70% of our jobs are informal. Actually, Bridgital Nation, the book itself, could not explain so vividly what the pandemic has done. The pandemic has really brought the lack of access in healthcare and the problem in running an economy with such a high percentage of informal workers, where they had to flee so vividly to light. The exact 2 problems Bridgital Nation tries to explain and solve. So to my mind, there are 3 things I will say. One, if you are able to bring technology to the low-skilled and no-skilled people, you will upgrade their skills. They will be able to offer and do jobs which is at a higher level. In a typical hospital scenario, you have a surgeon. Surgeon is a specialist, but he or she does only 50% of the time what they only can do. Remaining 50% of the time, they're ending up backfilling for lower level jobs because we have this missing middle in India. By deliberately using technology, you can upgrade skills so that all the job can be newly created, formal, digitally assisted jobs. Even in the pandemic, people keep talking about, technology taking away jobs. How every industry, every company has used technology, even in our own Taj, to provide the food service, they launched the Cumin app. It is a digital intervention, but at the end of the day, you need the cook, you need the people to deliver. So nobody lost jobs. In fact, it helped to keep the people in the jobs.
So if I just extend what you've just said, to dealing with the problem, there is the question of access, for example. Now, obviously, it's tough to use digital means to solve something like how do I have access to a hospital bed or an oxygen cylinder. Those are physical things that must be done. But access to basic information, what do I need to do if I have COVID? When should I get dexamethasone or not get dexamethasone? When do I need to go to a hospital? Some of these are information-related issues, which you don't necessarily have to go and get an appointment with a top doctor to try and get that appointment and get the answers to these questions. Some of it can be done at scale and distributed at scale using technology and using digital means.
Also, the point you said about how do I get a bed? I mean, imagine a platform where we have all this information, where we know the status of every hospital, every bed, status of what is oxygen required, where the oxygen is produced, what are the tankers we have. We just don't have it online. If it is a one single platform, it is no big deal. People can go and look up. Where is it that I can get? Where is it that I cannot get? It's not only about the number of beds. It is how many beds are occupied by severe patients, etc. See, currently, all these things are not an online platform. When I say a digital situation, all of this is in platforms.
And then that solves the problem because you don't have to physically keep going. I mean, people try and do it, but to some extent, I'm almost seeing citizen curated, lists coming up with these hospital beds are available, these are not there. The government's also tried to do it, but it doesn't always work, terribly effectively. To your point about jobs and the impact that's going to be on jobs and skilling, that's obviously not something that can be done in a crisis. But I was just wondering, as lockdowns start to happen, and it's possible, I mean, I know everyone's very reluctant to have lockdowns, but let's face it, it's a very real possibility given how bad the situation is. Is there any immediate technological or digital solution that we don't have the same example that we saw last year of migrants and people having to walk? And we certainly don't want to ever go through those days again.
See, to my mind, I think the immediate things that we can do during this period is to do the tracing even now, and the vaccination. How do you track the supply of vaccines? See, anything that needs to be done to solve the COVID crisis in a public health point of view, whatever is digitally available, whatever additionally we have to build in a quick and dirty manner, we can do that. But otherwise, to make a technological intervention in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it's not going to happen. So whatever we have to immediately do, additionally, based on what we have the Arogya Setu and what other functionality we can build to take care of the problems that we are facing in a war footing, we can do that. But I think from a next 6 months, 12 months, 1 year, 2 year point of view, I think we've got to be going back to really implementing this with a well thought out plan so that we can handle these kind of situations.
Right. Chandrasekaran, I'm going to shift to some of the other sectors also and ask about other questions and then take questions from the audience as well. But before I do that, if I could just ask you one last question on the pandemic specifically, which is, when it comes to the biggest challenge right now is, so there's vaccines are there, vaccines will save lives, but for the vaccines to break India's second wave and to break the tsunami, you probably need to get to the levels that, let's say, the UK or the US are, which is approximately 50 to 60% of people have got a dose, a vaccine dose, roughly around those levels. 50 vaccine doses per 100 people, let's just call it that. Now, to get to that level in India, you need 400, 500, 600 million vaccine doses. To some extent, it's a logistic question, it's a supply question, it's a manufacturing question. How do you get vaccines into so many people's arms? And how do you scale up production to get to that level where you can do 200, 300, 400 million vaccine doses in a month? If you were given that task and said, how do you do it? how would you do it? Because, I mean, look at the range of businesses that you manage. I can think of very few people who would be able to manage that task better. How would you do it? How would you get to that many doses?
I think it's a tough question to answer because I don't have all the data. But the point is that we need to get as many different vaccines licenses as possible, and then we are going to scale up. Even if you have to replicate multiple factories, we have got to do that. We have to really take this on our footing, and whatever investments necessary to be able to do it in the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks time to be able to scale up the vaccine production is something that we have to do. And with that goal in mind, we're going to work the plan. I don't have a a plan that I can share with you, but I'm pretty sure that that is the current thinking. But how do we get a plan to be able to mass produce? I think if I know, I think we would have done what, 10 crore people now?
A little more than that, but we're producing approximately, as of today, 70 million doses in a month, which is way lower than what it should be. It'll be 100, 150 by next month, but not enough to break the wave of this. People are going to die. So what you seem to be saying is replicate those factories. So maybe give the licenses or license the licenses to other companies, to the Tata group, to others, and saying, just produce more because it's an emergency.
I think we need to figure out how do we replicate so that we mass produce. And so that we are able to meet the requirement, because this is something that is needed to be done. It's an urgent situation.
Right. Well, you did say that the pandemic has got two aspects to it, right? In addition to, obviously, we know the devastation and the damage it's causing. But as you said, in some businesses, things are looking slightly different, because as you said, everyone now believes in digital. So anything which is a digital business is actually seen a lot of traction in the last 1 year, or sustainable businesses or health, as you said. If you look at your group and the examples that you're facing, where are the places where you think there's going to be a real time to come back? And which are the other areas? So like the services sector, hotels, you've got hotels in your group, you've got automobiles in the group, you've got steel in the group. So which are the sort of companies in the group that you would be worrying about, and which ones are you saying may actually get wind under their wings in the next few
I think the main area where from our parochially, the main two industries which will suffer, airlines will take time to come back, because the travel is not going to come back in a hurry. Business travel is definitely not going to come back in a hurry. So airline industry of all industries will take a longer recovery cycle. And hotels is another industry which has to carefully navigate this period. And, they are frontline, they are needed. They have the toughest job at this point in time. But at the same time, their recovery is going to be longer, because the business guests are not going to come.
So with those words about airlines, I'm almost tempted to ask you whether you're regretting or still proceeding or thinking about Air India, but you don't have to answer that right now if you don't want to.
I mean, this is not a business interview, but I'll tell you, when you run a business, you have to look at each opportunity in the context of where you are, and then you make those calls, and we will see. We are.
It's okay. I'm not going to ask you too many Tata-related questions, not on this platform. Dr. Saurav Singh is asking that industries like IT, education, sales, etc., can be managed in a lockdown situation, as work from home is possible here. But what is your opinion regarding manufacturing and constructing industries? Because manufacturing, construction areas like that, because I think his point is correct, is you can't do work from home, and you don't necessarily have Bridgital solutions to those areas.
I think let me put it this way. There are Bridgital solutions. Bridgital solutions do not mean work from home. Bridgital is all about humans and technology working together, hand in hand. Technology to help people to perform better. That's the whole concept. But I agree that manufacturing and construction industries will suffer in a lockdown situation. And if we go on a lockdown, serious lockdown, and if these industries don't function, we'll hurt the economy big time. And when we hurt the economy big time, we will hurt a section of laborers big time. Their livelihoods will suffer, which we saw it last year. So it is a very, that's why I keep saying that it is not either or. You can't just say that if the virus is not tackled and we're going to have a full lockdown, then you have a different set of problems. So this has to be very carefully managed. It has to be, to some extent, it has to be managed in micro segments, I feel. There will be packets where if we anticipate there is going to be an uprise, at least now we know in Mumbai-Delhi situation, from there we are beginning to see, we should be anticipating where it is likely to be. The best thing that we can do is to have predictive analytics. You asked me, what can we do better in the lockdown situation for the next month? I think the most important thing is to get into predictive analytics so that we know where the cases are going to rise next week. And we should be having a very concerted plan to be able to handle those segments. It is not a nationwide one solution fits all.
Right. One question from Ganesh Natarajan, nothing succeeds like access. And we have had a real problem with last mile connectivity in India, information asymmetry. Now that's obviously been a key issue that people have confronted even during the last 1 year. It's for a certain set of industries and for a certain set of people. It's all very well to say, okay, work from home, you don't have to do it, and things are fine. Digital businesses, if you can work from home, you've got good internet, there's no problem. But just as we were saying, construction and manufacturing industries have a problem. What happens to all the people who don't have access to good digital? Is that something which you think would become worse?
Well, there are two things. Work from home is not a solution forever. Let's be very clear. No industry can work completely from home. We have to strike a balance. Business is all about building relationships between employees and customers, with people at large. So we have to get back to some kind of a balance. No industry will go 100% work from home or a very high percentage of work from home. That is not viable. You need to renew relationships. You need to build new ones. That's one. Second one is in terms of what we are advocating in digital is to create that connectivity. What we are 100% advocating is that we need to have, the last man should have access to network, cloud, and AI and other technologies. And that is the investment that we need to be making. The last person in this country should have that access. And it should have the same kind of access like everyone else. Then we can address these problems most effectively.
Right. Bimal Bhatt says, is the Indian youth really ready for the digital nation in the next decade? And if I could just add a follow-up question, and coming back to something that you started with, where you said everybody believes in digital. Now, to some extent, that is correct. In the last 1 year, for example, and people like me who spent some years now telling everyone television is dying and TV news is dying and everything is going to become digital, nobody would believe it. And in the last 1 year, suddenly everybody believes it. So the question here, are people ready to accept that technology and Bridgital nation and this is the way the future is going to be? What is your take? Are people ready or not ready? Or has the last convinced all the cynics?
Yeah, at the end of the day, nothing gets done just because somebody gives a hypothesis. If you look at our book, the stories that we have written in every walk of life, whether it is the healthcare example in Assam, the taxi driver who pretty much turned to be a medical assistant, or any of the other examples, the young girl in Maharashtra, or the policewoman in Punjab, every one of those examples clearly demonstrate how transformation can happen if only we enable. Take a small and medium sector. See, India is full is a land of entrepreneurs. There are so many people who have got entrepreneurial ambition. And the biggest success is going to come from the SME sector. You know that, I know that. But it is very hard for an MSME to turn an entrepreneur. It's very easy in Bangalore to say that there is a startup ecosystem, I can be a startup. But take a tailor, for example, and he wants to become an entrepreneur. And it's not going to be easy because he has to learn how to fill forms, how to get licenses, how to understand the tax structure. He has to understand payroll. He has to understand GST. Then he has to get financing, which is very difficult to do because he doesn't have anything in any track record. So we need a platform approach. We need a platform. If you are able to have a platform by which all these problems can be solved, the platform which can take care of all these things which the person doesn't have to do, because we are asking the person to do everything other than the actual skill with which he wants to build his business or her business. So when I say digital, when I say Bridgital, I do not mean it is about doing a Zoom call. It is not about building an app. When I say Bridgital, it is about bringing the technology, the platforms for the benefit of the person in order to pursue his or her ambition. I tell you, one single SME platform, digital platform, which can solve all these problems, will create entrepreneurial clusters, digital clusters as we call it in the book. It need not be only in Bangalore for IT startups. Why can't it be for textile? Why can't it be for something else? And that is what we need to do. Then we will really spur entrepreneurship. Then each person will create jobs. And I will tell you that is the way jobs will get created. 100 million jobs are not going to come from corporates. Let's be clear.
Yeah. People have to have the ability to do it yourself. That ties in, I guess, to education. Here's a question coming in from Himanshu Agarwal. Should technology not be used to identify super spreaders using AI? But, yes. Maybe, frankly, I'm not even sure whether you need artificial intelligence to identify super spreaders. But frankly, if you ask me, I think artificial intelligence will find it tough to deal with natural stupidity in some of the cases that we are seeing. But the use of AI for identifying super spreaders, and as another question, the use of AI in the logistics around vaccines, medicines, oxygen.
See, that's what I was saying. If you have a platform which links the beds, patients, oxygen, tankers, all these things in a single platform, then it will be handy, but you don't have it today.
Right.
And to some extent, there is technology in the Arogya Setu app to track super spreaders. And I'm pretty sure that they have access to this data. Every state government has got this access to this data.
Yes, well, let's see the user. Sometimes you can just trust your eyes also and see what's happening. I just want to shift to education because we've spoken a fair amount about healthcare, education. These are some of the themes that keep coming up as the really important things to drive India forward and in a sustainable manner. You've spoken about skilling as well, but what is your sense on education and the application of digital to areas like education, and how can that be used to really drive change going forward? And to enhance productivity.
Again, the pandemic has brought it so vividly. You look at the number of things that happened in education, how people adapted to the extreme level of digital education. Everybody went on to online platforms, whether it is Google Cloud based or Zoom based or Teams based or whatever it is. And this is the extreme level. But in Bridgital, what we say is that there is a digital intervention required so that we gainfully use teachers. Teachers have to do only certain things. Teachers don't have to do everything. Entire administrative process can be taken over by technology. Assessment can be taken over by technology. Grading can be taken over by technology. There are so many things that the teacher does can be freed up from the teachers so that they can focus on the job of teaching. Content Best content can be made available to everybody. It can be standardized. Standardized for the better. Every best content will be available to all kids in all languages across the nation. And we can create collaboration platforms. Already some of it came into fore during the last 1 year. Collaboration platform between teachers, collaboration platform between students, teachers across different schools, students across different schools. I'm telling you, the power of bringing Bridgital to education is just enormous. It will not only provide access, it will create jobs, because many of these things will be intermediate jobs. These are not teaching jobs, but these are jobs that will come in making technology work for all the tasks that the teachers don't have to do.
Right.
And I think this is the way to go.
Right. Well, before we run out of time, I just wanted to ask you, the big trends you see going forward, because right now I think there's so much gloom and doom and we're dealing with the immediate crisis. But if you could look out 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, where do you see us heading? What are the big trends that you're seeing going forward?
I think the trend for the world for the next decade, to my mind and beyond, number one is acceleration of digital. When I say digital, I don't mean digital businesses like IT and technology. I mean every business, whether it's industrial, construction, auto, steel, whatever be the business you are in, how the digital adoption and how it can leverage the data that business wants, has access to, and adoption of that to give the better products and services, better experience for customers. That is one trend. Second one is every business will move to a sustainable future, like electric vehicles in automotive, like renewable energy in power sector. But there are green steel, there are other things. There are many, many things in each industry. So sustainability will be a big investment going forward. Third, public health, wellness, and safety will be a priority. There will be a lot of money that will go in there, and there will be a lot of innovation that will happen there, including innovation in terms of new solutions for not only COVID-19, for every other possible ailment. Then the fourth one is the global supply chains have to become resilient. Supply chains will become from just in case, from just in time to just in case. So there will be a distribution of the supply chain, still integrated, but that will become an absolute necessary. That will create lots of opportunities in India, and investments will certainly go in there. I think these are some of the trends that I would like to highlight going forward.
So build resilience, and some of these are big trends. And when you talk about digital, just one last quick question. When you are saying it's not just the IT and the other businesses that you're looking at, you seem to be saying every single business has to look at itself and say, either you're going to be digital 5 years from now, or else you're not going to be.
Yeah, you will have to create platforms. I'm just saying, for example, MSME. How do you bring digital to build the platforms that will solve the problem of a particular sector? You talk about public health care. How do you solve public health care? It is not, we can't go on a hospital building spree. That's not going to solve. But how do you create the platforms which will leverage the knowledge, data of not only patients, about the resources that is available? So every segment, when I say digital, I do not mean building an app or building a technology company. I am saying, how do you bring a platform approach using the digital tools? Technology by itself will mean nothing unless or otherwise the business can visualize the use of the technology. It's become very powerful. Now AI is powerful, cloud is powerful. You can create platforms to solve some of the big problems. And I think whether it is healthcare, whether it is education, or any of the public infrastructure and societal challenges we have, or building solutions and transforming businesses which are existing. I don't want to call it as old age businesses. Every business will become a new age business if you bring a platform-centric approach.
All right. I think that's really been fascinating, and we've got a large number of insights from you, sir. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to leave it there for the moment and toss it back to the AIMA team.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to an end of a very insightful discussion on bridging the technology divide